Okay,
Is it
great.
recording?
It is recording. And do you want me to move this bar so that
Oh, yeah, maybe
we'll put that down there? Okay, super. All right, welcome to Climate at Noon on this March 15th. We have just a sign-in sheet. If you don't get our emails and want to, please leave your email address there. We're really excited for today's presentation. This has been 2.5 years in the making, really, which I think is an awesome story. And I don't want to take any more time because I think these students have a really inspiring story to share of making a legacy change at an institution in a very short amount of time. We have a panel that includes a couple alumni and a student who's out of town right now, but joining us virtually. And we are recording this presentation. So I'm going to transition to Mac, and they all have a set of introductions. And then just before it even starts, I want to just take a minute and really celebrate Dr. Ryan Stock, who was key to mentoring and moving this group. Of course, many of you know he's not able to be with us here today. He has sent a really powerful message that I hope we can share at the end of this presentation, but just in the spirit of celebrating the power of what a professor can do and the influence they can have, can we please just give them a round of applause? And so on that note, I'm now going to transition to Mac, and let me know if you want me to do any switching and moving of things.
Yeah, I think we're all set to go. So DivestNMU is a student organization here on campus, and recently we had a pretty cool milestone that we'll get into later. But first we want to kind of get into who we are. So here's just a little bit of pictures. Obviously we have a little bit of people who are still in the club and alumni. Not everybody could be here today, so just kind of wanted to showcase everyone that's been behind this work throughout like the past 2 years. And starting off with Molly, she was going to be here today, but sadly had a last minute thing come up. So I'm just going to quickly introduce her. She worked on organizing protests, events, meetings, was part of her role was speaking at forums, Board of Trustees meetings. We've gone to the City Commission, helped write the Sustainable Advisory Committee proposal that we sent that then eventually went into be our official proposal that you guys have today with you, and has been with the club from the start, was like one of the founders, you'd say. But with that, also when we get into introductions, I kind of want to note a cool aspect about our organization is we're non-hierarchical, if I'm saying that correctly. So we don't have like a specific leader. We really wanted this to be a overall group effort. So as we're going through our roles, everyone may have overlap or do similar things because we want to be able to do what we're passionate and all work together to come to this one main goal. So we didn't really have strict roles, boundaries in that aspect. So yeah. And also, since Molly wasn't able to make it, she sent a little brief statement that I'm going to share as well too before we move on. And what she sent to me was saying that I am more proud of the work we have done here as a group than of anything I've done at this university. Over $6 million will be pulled from fossil fuel industry, and around 16 million, hopefully more, will be reinvested in socially responsible funds. The biggest lesson I have learned from my experience with DivestNMU is institutional level advocacy, even when done by a group of inexperienced students without any sort of authority, can be hugely impactful. I really feel like the major changes are necessary right now. I have so much love for everyone in this group. I'm so grateful to have learned and worked with these amazing girls. I wish I could be presenting with them today, and I want to say huge thanks to Ryan and Jess. I'm so fortunate to be able to look up to both of you throughout my degree and still today. I also want to thank President Tessman for being supportive of this. So yeah, just wanted to share that since she wasn't able to make it. And then moving on.
Okay, hi everybody. My name's Maggie. I wish I could see all of your faces there today. But I started with DivestNMU in the fall of 2021, right when we were getting started. Previously, I had helped to write the climate emergency draft resolution, which was passed by the city. And kind of from there, Molly did a lot of work with Ryan, and we kind of evolved from that, as well as a couple other campaigns that were going on around campus. Throughout my time with DivestNMU, I kind of focused more on the education side of things. This was tabling other events, climate marches that we put on, and stuff like that to try to garner student support throughout the process. And I graduated recently in December with an environmental science degree. And it was kind of bittersweet for me to leave NMU at a time where they agreed to divestment. So it was kind of cool to see something that I had worked on throughout the majority of my college career come to fruition as I was leaving the university.
Oh, Marley, I think you're on mute.
You're so right. Okay, hello, I'm Marley. I have been with DivestNMU from the start, like most of us. I have worked on mainly the administrative side of things. I was really interested in attending the meetings with upper administration, financial professors, NMU's financial team, to really understand their side and, like Molly's statement said, like that institutional activism. I think it was really important for us to be able to speak their language with this campaign. And I thought that that was a valuable skill that I could take with me in life as I continue on my activism path. But with that being said, like Jess said, this has been in the making for a while, and we all really came together. Like Ryan says, collective activism turns to systematic change. So we worked together as a group on everything, and that's why I loved this group so much. And I think that's why we were super successful. I graduated in May of 2023 with a bachelor's in environmental studies and sustainability and a minor in business administration. So I was able to watch NMU divest via the live stream in December as much as I would have loved to be there in person.
All right. Hi, I'm Mackenzie. As said before, I started with DivestNMU in November of 2021, so a little bit after the organization is kind of formed. Kind of what I did as my role is dealing with outreach, funding, and kind of event side of the campaign. When I talk about funding, kind of like getting money to have our events, we've brought speakers before, as well as just getting stickers and promotional things, because as we talked about earlier, education is important to like spread the word about what we're trying to do. I'm currently a junior studying social media design management, so I was here this past winter at the Board of Trustees meeting when they passed divestment, which was really cool to be there and talk to media about why it was so important for that to happen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Calibri Drobush, and I started with Divest in the fall of 2022 after transferring to Northern. I was also kind of like did a lot of what everyone else did, like involved with the administration communication and campus engagement and outreach, kind of get the student body involved. Like Max said, we were very no one had like specific roles, so we kind of tried to do everything together, which was awesome. And I'm currently a junior at NMU studying ecology. And I was really fortunate to watch the proposal get passed on the live stream in December, which was awesome.
And so we're just gonna, a quick overview of like what divestment is. We just have a little quick synopsis over here, kind of taking a quote of like what divestment means, but also what divestment means for NMU was about pulling money out of the fossil fuel industry and also advocating for NMU to generally be more ethical and socially responsible within their portfolio and their endowment. We intended to set a precedent that encouraged the other administrations at other universities as well to take similar action. For instance, Michigan Tech, who we did some work with, is still advocating for their university to pull out their investments from fossil fuel. And we hope that us committing to a divestment also inspires other universities. But overall, yeah, divestment here is pulling those investments in our endowment funds and putting them more to hopefully renewable or more green energy rather than the fossil fuel industry. So, and then we have a little breakdown of a timeline of our organization and how we kind of reached divestment. Like we said, it's been a 2-year process, so a little sporadic, but a few big moments. Obviously, October 2021 was when DivestNMU was formed and kind of got up and running and everything. And from there, we had a petition, which was basically to really get the word out overall to students, to faculty, just in general, to kind of work is the main basis for our education. And obviously that went into climate marches that you can see was a huge part of gardening community and keeping our voices heard amongst the university. We did tabling events as well. Another big thing that you'll see in the timeline is going to Board of Trustees meetings and speaking, saying what we hope to see happen at our university. So, you know, they don't forget about us. They see that we're still doing work and trying to make change happen. As you can see, as it gets farther down, after speaking with Board of Trustees, we were able to talk with President Tessman as well as Dr. Gavin Leach, getting into the nitty-gritty of the financial things when it comes to it. And yeah, kind of an overview of some of the events we had to get motion, as well as the important conversations that we had to have. So now we're going to get into what does this mean for Northern passing divestment?
So at the Board of Trustees meeting in December this year, they voted unanimously 7-0 on this proposal. President Tessman and Vice President Gavin Leach put together this proposal this fall based off of our recommendations that we put forward to the Sustainable Advisory Committee when they were still existing. And they voted in this proposal to divest 50% by next year and fully divested by 2028 of their endowment fund, while also increasing their investments with sustainability related up to 15%. And here's just a snapshot of our 4 recommendations that we included in our proposal. And like they pretty much kind of copied verbatim what we put in there, but that was really great to see that they were like supportive of the ideas that we came up with and the well-researched info that we had in there.
All right, so now we're kind of going to talk about how did we do this? How did it come to fruition, kind of?
So obviously, as there's a lot going on behind the scenes with working with the administration and writing proposals and kind of pushing for that, there's also a lot that goes on that kind of everyone saw. And I think in order to be successful with these kinds of campaigns, you kind of have to gather the support of the student body and educate them on what you're working towards. So we did a ton of education and outreach throughout our campaign, a lot of tabling in academic buildings and during Earth Week, and just really spreading the word on our campaign, what we're working on, and the different milestones we reached along the way. Throughout the process, we also brought in some speakers, one of which was from Divest Ed, to kind of talk about divestment at other levels, other universities, other places, and the importance of it. We also were active on social media and also with the news and school newspaper as well, which was super helpful. And then we also had a couple different protest events, such as climate marches, demonstrations, and a huge one was the Tech versus NMU hockey game. We did a little collaboration with Michigan Tech's Divest group and kind of had a protest during that game, which was really cool to see. And then we also did a few sit-ins and protests outside of Cohodes Hall as well.
So in terms of the administrative side, we were very persistent and continuously showed up to Board of Trustees meetings, calling for a commitment to divestment and the clear stance that that would give in terms of the climate crisis. We actually met with one of my professors at the time, Professor Jared Linna, just to better understand the financial aspect of things once we were able to kind of review the financial portfolio of NMU. And I think this helped us a lot going into future meetings, just to have more confidence when we're talking about finances, and speak their language again was really helpful. We then met with Gavin Leach, the VP of Finance, and Ryan Stock to begin the conversation with him, which kind of led us to our meeting with Cap Trust and President Tessman. And again, all of this was done in efforts to collaborate with them. Having the administrative on our side and in support of us throughout this entire campaign was a huge goal of ours. We wanted to go into every conversation as equals and hear all sides out respectfully. We knew that building that positive relationship with the administration would only help us in the end. And so it was really important for us to continue to have these conversations and keep them in the loop with what we're doing to kind of form that that bond with them.
So like Maggie and Marley just kind of went over like our campaign, what we did, but it's kind of like can be like any campaign for university change. Like they said, starting with the grassroots movement, like engaging students and mobilizing like engaged and concerned citizens. I think we did a really good job of that through like all of our events and protests, and like Maggie said, like getting the Northwind articles out there and having TV6 present at our climate marches. And we contacted the Mining Journal for them having like press on us. And the second important piece, like Marley just touched on, was like that connection, that personal and positive connection with key decision makers that can like enact these changes, such as we met with a Board of Trustee member, we were in communication a lot with Brock Tessman and the Vice President Gavin Leach, as well as our meeting last spring with the investment advisor from Cap Trust. So these connections with these people like were really like the pivotal part of our successful campaign. And then the last part was just like how we put forward our proposal and how like we presented it with well-researched and like educated side stance. Like we weren't just going in there like banging on doors screaming like we want change. Like we did our homework and we knew what we were asking for and how to approach it with confidence. So I think our group did a really good job of being like professional as well as respectful and inclusive with everyone that we could include. Although we did hold like several what you could call acts of disturbance, like climate marches and sit-ins, I think that the value of listening to and engaging with the administrative leaders was really what made this like pivotal and successful. So I think it was really awesome to see this policy change in just over a little 2 years, which is kind of a short time when you're talking about like university changes. And I think we all recognize that this is just a step towards tangible climate action, but it's a really good step in the right direction.
All right, Jess, I don't know if you kind of want to take this over and talk about with Ryan's statement that he had for us.
We should questions.
I think F. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So as these amazing students, I'm just so impressed with what they've done. Like I don't know why I'm emotional about it. I just think sometimes we feel like all the world's problems are so big and they're so huge and it's going to take forever to change anything. And you can see what they did in 2.5 short years. Like it really did start in October 21, maybe late September. Anyways, their faculty advisor has shared a statement. As I said earlier, Ryan is on leave this semester. So I'm going to try to channel him. I have nowhere near a fraction of the energy or enthusiasm or height that he has, but I will try to bring it here. We are precariously perched at a precipice where we can either decide to implement sustainable solutions to climate breakdown at a breakneck pace or plunge into cascading tipping points of ecological and social devastation that cannot be reversed within human timeframes, burdening countless future generations of human and non-human lives to vital resource deprivation and scarcity, while simultaneously increasing their exposure to ever ubiquitous pollutions and effluents. That was all one sentence. That's why I didn't bring it. Okay. Actions can matter more than words. Our local environmental impacts aggregate into global climate climes, with the worst impacts befalling already disproportionately marginalized populations of both the global north and global south. An inconvenient truth: our alibi has exited the biosphere. We can no longer hide behind threadbare excuses of not having enough information, not having enough money, not having the right leadership, not having enough time. The science, the money, and the time favors substantive and swift climate action. Let the lack of implementation reflect the often appalling, apathetic priorities and proclivities of fossilized leaders in administrations and institutions, unwilling to respond and adapt to current exigencies of socio-ecological crises like climate change and other manifold and intersecting crises. But we may be able to tell a different story for Northern. Time will tell, And the world is watching, albeit impatiently, enduring an impressive exasperation of vulnerability. Social movements often begin with brilliant and courageous youth, willing to risk their livelihoods and lives to fix problems they didn't create, relegated to futures mired in the consequences wrought from previous generations' transgressions. The story of NMU divesting from fossil fuels begins like many other stories that extol the true story of acclaimed recent sustainability transformations at our university. Standing in front of you today, the youth assembled here representing DivestNMU are examples of bold climate leadership that began at the grassroots and has grown to the mountaintop of university planning and policy. Perpetually thwarted and peripheralized, these student leaders persisted with a focused precision of savvy professionals astutely schooled in social change. Over the past few years, these change agents were not deterred by the many attempts to derail divestment at NMU. Public and private dialogue of disagreement and denial, declined meeting requests, diversionary communication tactics, procedural delays, shuttered doors, and disappointingly myopic priorities, despite public proclamations and platitudes of well-being and sustainability being core values of our academic institution. Perhaps blatantly obvious to everyone attending this event today, funding climate chaos does not align with NMU's sustainability commitments. So multiple times a month, for multiple years, in the margins of their busy lives, DivestNMU would assemble to strategically advance propositions and sustain campaigns for economically lucrative and scientifically informed solutions that many campus leaders and administrators refused or neglected to support or implement. Yet patiently persistent, their advocacy and activism worked. Let history show, standing before you now, the people who deserve the credit for fossil fuel divestment at Northern Michigan University. Without their tireless efforts and brave leadership, our university would not be benefiting from the accolades, investments, and improved sustainability assessments that accompany the commitment to divestment. NMU is a measurably better institution of higher education because of these students. Thank you, DivestNMU. However, I also want to thank Rock Tessman, the Board of Trustees, and Executive Council and CAP Trust for engaging with this student group over the past 3 semesters. We recently began considering their bold, bulletproof, reasonable, well-researched, possible, and profitable divestment reinvestment plans, eventually leading to commitments and probable near-term implementation. Thank you for coming to divestment and reinvestment. Although my medical condition precludes me from attending this event today, I am here now and always in spirit and eagerly await a return to active engagement upon my recovery. Collaborating with these young leaders has been among the highlights of my career thus far, and I'm incredibly honored to be their faculty mentor, and I remain continuously inspired by their vision and actions. Long ago, I decided to always navigate my career toward the direction of, quote, doing good work with cool people. Fighting the causes of unseasonable winter heat here, these cool people are doing good work. While cautiously optimistic, do not think that divestment is a complete payment of all accumulated ecological debts. However, if enacted effectively and equitably, it can represent an investment in vibrant and abundant futures for all, predicated on an ethos of care and repair. In sum, good job, but the good work is not done. So support all the efforts of these cool people, and let's get to work. Empowerment and peace, or I can stop. Thanks. Yeah, incredible. So an opportunity for questions.
Yeah.
Are there student groups that look at finance, that look at actuarial kind of stuff that you can collaborate with to do some of that research?
I don't know if anyone wants to take that online. I guess I'd say in the past when we were doing the research, it was mostly just us, and like Marley could maybe talk about a little bit more. We did collaborate with the professor, but we did not collaborate with other clubs with the financial aspect, I would say. That was more of just an inside research job. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think at the beginning we had talked about like it would be really nice to get some more business focused people with us, just because we all are in the environmental field. And so we never really got in collaboration with those people, but I think it was a lot of independent research from us. And then also, like I said, meeting with one of my business professors at the time was super helpful, just kind of understanding that lingo a little bit more. Because again, like at the start, we were like, we want divestment, but how are we going to talk to Cap Trust and our financial investors in a way that they will understand? So yeah, I think that specific meeting and then just research was kind of our go at it.
Yeah, I think it's important, like Marley was saying, to say like how much research went into this. I mean, like she said, a lot of us are more on the environmental side. Like we want this, but we don't exactly understand the language and what it means to get there. So it took a lot of trying to understand it and doing that research, because like really we had no idea in the beginning. So I think it goes to show that like we cared enough to put that extra time in. I mean, Molly, this was like Molly's do or die like her whole time here, which was really cool to see her passion for it. So I think it's important to note how much went into just understanding what it takes to get there.
I'm a member of the Climate Reality Project, and I mentor at trainings. The last training I mentored at, we had an expert panel from climate scientists from around the world. And the challenge was given to them quite directly. What gives you hope in spite of all the catastrophes that we see going on around the world? And to a person, all four of them said, the engagement of youth. We have that here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Are there any future plans for the group? I mean, are there people here yet that you have any future plans to take any further actions?
It's a good question. I might pass off Calibri a little bit, but right now, in the past winter, there was just three of us kind of staying in the loop, obviously, that were here that haven't graduated yet. And with the passment of divestment was obviously huge. I think going forward, we obviously want to still stay in the loop and make sure that the university is obviously staying to their word and keeping up with these. Like next year, they want to be 50%, kind of more of checking in. But that's kind of where, at least I know, our plans as of far. I don't know if Calibri kind of wants to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it on the head there. Like just checking in, making sure that like those milestones are getting reached. Another point that, I mean, there's only a few of us really like left at school, but we still have a lot of alumni interested in helping out. But making sure that their commitment to that 15%, well, up to 15% back reinvested in like renewable and ethical investments be as much as they can, because their wording of up to 15% means they could be 1%. So if NMU is true to their word and like wanting to be a sustainable leader and an institution in that way, like keeping those connections, I think, and hoping that they don't forget that, oh, they graduated, okay, we're done with this kind of attitude. So I think just having like those, like keeping those personal connections is going to be important for us moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Bob Anderson, and I have a question and a call to action. Has anybody ever heard of Chloe Maximum, graduate of Harvard? And she wrote a book called Dirt Road Revival. Well, Chloe was one of you at Harvard. She was the student leader of Divest Harvard, and she did the same thing that you did with the board of directors of Harvard, but only about 7 years ago, a little bit earlier. And so, and Harvard divested, and then she went back to her hometown in Maine, and at the age of 26, she took her activism to the next level, where she ran for state representative in the most rural red area of Maine. And she won. And at the age of 26, she became in the state legislature of Maine And then within the next 2 years, she became a state senator. And then when she was in the state legislature, she had a new green energy program in Maine and got it passed in the state of Maine. So there is more that you can do when you go back home is run for office. Be like an inside spy, you know? And it's possible to change from within. I mean, look how long Governor Whitmer had to wait to get Michigan's green energy legislation passed. And that was passed last November, and that is being risked. There's a big risk that that is going to be repealed by a conservative anti-climate change group called Citizens for Local Action. And you could help to write letters to the editor and to talk about how they're wrong in how they feel about solar and wind energy, because they're trying to get 357 signatures in the next 2.5, 3 months. And you could try to be a positive force against this negative effort that will scrap the governor's, and you know that that's 100% green energy for Michigan's electricity in 17 years from now, by the year 2040. I think you all know that. Well, that's being risked. That could be, we're going to try to get a ballot proposal, and maybe you could help to oppose that ballot proposal.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you bring that up because part of Shine, Isabel over here is an intern here, and we have a letter writing event that we're actually planning to hold later this month. It was kind of came up out of the conversation of having this Climate at Noon with DivestNMU and wanting to continue and have those events. So.
We've got a local genius lined up.
So.
Yeah,
Yes, definitely going to be working towards that.
Monday, the 25th, in this room, 6 to 7:30. So
Yes.
March 25th, a Monday afternoon, 6 p.m. to 7:30. Letter writing on issues, and
Can you repeat that?
yeah.
Time, please.
Yeah, yes, Monday, March 25th at 6 to 7:30.
25th.
25th. In this room.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one last thing. Why don't you students start showing up at the Board of Light and Power meetings and talking clean energy to them and to the County Board of Commissioners and to the City of Marquette on solar and wind projects? Or how about the City of Negaunee? How about the City of Ishpeming?
Definitely. I feel like during our campaign, we did kind of want to go. We've gone to a city commissioner meeting before, kind of connected to that, and had our own little sit-in about divestment and spoke during that too. And I think some of us obviously wanted to go back to that, but kind of got swept in the way of getting divestment here. But it is a really good point of continuing that now that we've kind of had this pass, have more of that time to free up and go to them. Yeah.
Solar panels on every school of the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit too. I actually work for Peninsula Solar, who's based in Marquette, and we've actually done a number of projects in the last few months with a couple of the townships, Eli Township, Marquette Township, Sands Township, and we're really working to target townships, cities, counties, schools, just with the incentives that are out there for them to get funding for those projects. And I think it's something that as a group, we could even work to push as well, even educate those municipalities on the funding that's available to them. But it like just in my job currently, it is a kind of a campaign that we're working on internally as a company as well.
Yeah.
So we actually, as eGreps, we had a speaker come in this fall about sustainable investment, personally, like investing, that way. But one thing that he mentioned, within that institutionalism of it was, divesting pension funds. Did you guys, like, number one, do you know about that? Because I didn't know about that. And then, like, did you do anything with that or anything like that?
Are you kind of talking about and referring to like the NMU Foundation here?
No,
For retirement.
For retirements,
Oh,
for all
okay.
the professors and faculty.
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The endowment, different.
Yeah.
So every individual who has a retirement plan at the university has, it's their choice. So you control your own investments. So they put the money into a TIA craft account, and then you can go in and do a social choice package, you can do this, but it would be, if we were to extend some of your work, it would be another great educational campaign. I mean, there's no shortage of issues that we could work on, but
Yeah.
one would be educating employees about,
Yeah.
where's your retirement money?
I didn't even know that was like possible, kind of.
Yeah, but the university doesn't, it used to manage the pension. You used to be on this great state system, but it's no longer that those monies don't exist.
Could they ask to put a letter in or some kind of note as being from NMU divest or DivestNMU, from their students? Could they put in some information to all of the faculty that are gonna make decisions?
Absolutely.
That would be an easy, write a letter.
Yeah, it could be a letter. We could even work with the benefits office and say,
absolutely.
here's an explanation of what, like, the university has made a commitment to
Yes.
divestment. Will you do that as well?
And realistically, like when we had that speaker come in, like the returns on sustainable investments are actually higher than the
Yes.
returns in other investments and will continue to be higher in the future.
100%.
And that was a big part of our, not argument, but like our proposal is like, these are more favorable returns and it will increase to be more favorable. So we're hoping that if they get to the 50% by next year, that maybe it's like, well, I don't really know how investments work at all, but I don't think really any of us do. But if it is like becoming more and more favorable, that maybe we don't have to wait till 2028. This is just like a goal that hopefully we can reach before then, as I'm kind of getting from what they have put together.
Libri's spot on in conversations with Vice President and the CFO. It's 100%. They're like, we're saying 2028 to be safe, but reality is we're probably going to get there much sooner. Just because it's a financial win, it makes sense. Although the best thing I heard when this was talked about at a Board of Trustees meeting, one of the board members raised their hand and turned to the president and said, you do this because it is the right thing to do, not because it is the economical thing to do. And I was like, okay, she's my favorite. Yes. So I think leadership matters. And when you have an institution that has a governing body that is saying this matters, it's a totally different game than it was here when our trustees were appointed by the previous governor.
Yeah, but, there were a number of Republicans on that Board of Trustees who voted for it. They all voted, all. So it is possible to convince Republicans to do the right thing.
Yes.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, that we don't have to wait for the perfect setup. You know, if we were to say, oh, let's wait till we get all the right people in place and all the key things, that you actually can, you can start to wedge the change. But it's the passion of students showing up to a Board of Trustees meeting. Well, they know you. I mean, I've been to these meetings now and not a lot of students there. So you show up for that and you make an ask, you're remembered. And that becomes what they know about NMU and what they know about the student body. And those are the cares that they hear loudest.
I also think that going off of that, like relating it to people personally is a really big tool to use. And everybody at this university cares about Northern and cares about Marquette and the climate that we should have up there and the local ecosystem. And so relating anything to Democrats, Republicans, whoever personally is such a good way to get any message across, I think.
I don't know if Colibri wants to be put on the spot, but maybe she could talk about some of the work that she's doing right now as part of the carbon neutrality internship.
Yeah, for sure. I have, yeah, like Jess said, an internship working or under Shine, but working with mostly Jess and Kathy Richards, the facilities manager, going through NMU's energy data and using a program called SciMap to calculate our university's carbon emissions. And also at the meeting, Board of Trustees meeting in December, the carbon neutrality plan, carbon neutral by 2050 plan was passed or presented. So yeah, we started kind of working through the data and seeing how different years are, yeah, gonna work for carbon emission accounting. So yeah, I think right now NMU seems like a really like hotspot for sustainability. I know our president Brock Tessman has made a big initiative to make sustainability one of the pillars of importance. And yeah, I think it's a good time to be here, and it's really exciting for students like us who care about these things. So if any of you students, I can't see the room right now, but if anyone is in there and like itching for something to get involved with, like now is the time. I think it's a really powerful time. Yeah, thanks.
What was that program called? Side Maps?
Yeah, SciMap, SIMAP. It's something to do with sustainability tracking. I don't know the acronym, what it stands for, but it was put together by University of New Hampshire. And it's a platform that you can input your energy data, institutions' energy data through scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. And it calculates the metric tons of carbon through those. And you can look on there, other universities reporting and see what they're doing and how they're getting there too, which is really neat.
And they're just greenhouse gas equivalents, so we can also get our methane emissions.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to someone before this event started about fertilizer, and so getting the data on just the amount and the type of fertilizer we use and what the emissions are associated with that fertilizer. So we're able to track. I mean, Colibri is so deep in the data on all of these buildings and all of the energy used to light and heat everything that the university owns.
And another point about this is the position I have right now, we're hoping to kind of like set a framework for how each year these calculations can be like monitored and stuff. And this position can be like an ongoing, like rotating student wise. So this isn't the only time that there'll be an intern in this position. Just keep that in mind if there's anyone interested for future years or something.
It's a reminder for the meeting.
Yeah.
So, according to, I don't remember which journal, but one of the journal paper talking about the sustainable finance, instead of the general S&P 500 finance, during the COVID, sustainable finance more return than the general S&P 500, the company. Meaning is that if you guys have the kind of the evidence, the kind of information, probably it's much more easy to make them to change their opinion and attitude, like that kind of thing. Like when you guys open the Yahoo Finance, that kind of thing, they have the sustainable value number in there. Like when they have a more high sustainable value number, the company can have a more return than other company. And then based on that information, you can say that hey, this, even though you guys put this money in your company, return this much, but in here return that much more, and then you can change it.
Yeah. I definitely feel like from the beginning, like compared to, not that there wasn't information when we began this like 2.5 years ago, but it helped that there was more information coming out and research helping us like back our statement. Like obviously what we've been saying was true the entire time, but like you said, the more information that came out about it was definitely helpful when talking to administration about it.
And the more universities are getting on this campaign and like divesting themselves, the more like other universities are like, oh, maybe this is something, you know, everyone wants to be like everyone else. So now Northern can be a leader for that too, I think.
Well, let's give these amazing climate leaders a big round of Awesome. Thank you so much for coming today. Our next Climate at Noon will be our last one of the academic year, and it's going to be on Friday, April 12th. And we will have the Citizens Climate Lobby, League of Women Voters, and student eco-reps member lead the En-ROADS climate simulation tool. So MIT created this really collaborative but open source tool for calculating different scenarios to get to future. So what sort of policies, actions, ideas need to be implemented, and what does it look like over time? It's open source software, and so it's bring your laptop because we're going to play with the model and see what sort of levers advocate the biggest change.
What's that called?
It's called En-ROADS, EN-ROADS, ROADS, and it was created in an open source tech lab at MIT. And that will be noon, April 12th. The last one? The last one. And then if you can come back to campus the following week on Thursday, April 18th. Would that be Thursday?
April 18th is Thursday.
Yes, the celebration of student scholarship is, it's the 28th annual event, and it will take over this entire hallway, but we will have one room that we're calling the Green Room. There will be presentations all day on projects and research related to sustainability all over campus and the community. So it's the day that Northern really takes to honor and celebrate student research. And this year's theme is related to sustainability. We'll send out reminders about these things. And again, if you aren't on the mailing list, we're going to have a new newsletter platform very soon. Look at Paige, she's our newsletter director. Yeah, for Shine, which will be searchable. It'll also be a place where we can store recordings and other content from different presentations. So make sure you've got your email address so we can spam you with the good stuff. Well, thank you again for coming, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everyone that's in there and came. Remember, it's always a good day to fight the system and make change happen. So.
Yeah, thank you all so much for showing up.
Awesome.
That's cool they have it recorded and everything too.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit stop recording. Have a good one, guys.